Superhero was a good movie. Do. Based on a certain part of Dragon Ball Z. Do. Here's a new Kirblog. It's of my review. You are the hero guy. Bring that back because, believe it or not, this film had no tie-in theme song by some popular J-pop band or anything. It's just a straight-up action movie. But it was appropriate, you know. It's another Dragon Ball Z movie theme and involves being a hero. It's a few days later, but for me, it is the afternoon, the day following. I went to go see Dragon Ball Superhero Super with a lovely group of friends. We had a fantastic time. A couple things just to start with. I will be just speaking candidly from the beginning about, there's not going to be like a non-spoiler section. This is just, I'm going to talk about spoilers. So final warning, turn back while you still can. If you have not seen the film, please, though I will say as kind of a, jumping ahead to my final thought, please do go see it. It is fantastic. It is worth seeing in theaters. It is worth seeing in IMAX. I was not paid to say that. I promise. I'm not associated or anything. I just really enjoyed it. I love everybody who worked on it. And I love Dragon Ball. So I will also say this review is probably going to sound more negative than I intend it to be. I'm a critical and I'm a critically thinking Dragon Ball fan. I do so because I love it. Is not meant with any kind of, hate or anything. Perhaps some level of jadedness or more so it has to do with, I think, how my philosophies about filmmaking and storytelling have changed over the years. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's really good. Please go check it out. So final warning, getting into this. Okay, so first CG feature animated Dragon Ball movie. Dragon Ball's not been a stranger to CG animation for many years between video games, some Japan exclusive rides and things. But of course, the quality has, differed at various points. I have been extremely impressed, as I've talked about a few years ago when I did a review on the Mewtwo Strikes Back Pokemon remake. I've been very impressed by the leaps and bounds that Japan has made in CG animated movies. They take a very different approach. Oh, and of course, also, what this is closer to compared to, say, like the Pokemon first movie remake and the Lupin CG movie. This is a little bit closer in certain aspects to the Godzilla Netflix trilogy that I worked on, where it's a little bit more on the cel-shaded edge and kind of like an intentionally lower frame rate to kind of capture that sort of feeling to it. I liked it, and I mostly liked it, that aspect of it, and it wasn't perfect for me. What I was very impressed by and was very tickled by was the little subtleties with the character animation. Leaping to mind kind of early on is Pan hanging out with Piccolo training, and they just animated her so cute and like just little fun, subtle, movements and things, particularly with the body language. Not to say that the facial expressions were not also fun. They were not pushed at certain points as much as maybe they could have been. But everybody felt very true to the way that they should be, the way that they move, the way that they, again, especially the body language and everything. I did appreciate from a design perspective too, with the way that they did the models, that they went with something a little bit closer to how the manga looks. Little subtle things like Piccolo having the what's it called? The yellow little bumpy things on his arms. Krillin having the whites in his eyes. There's some debate about Trunks' hair color that is weird and confusing to me, but I'm not going to get on that. The look of the film is tons of fun, and particularly where this shines, I would say equally to the little subtleties of the character animation were the fight scenes. I don't doubt the fact that the staff at Toei and all the animation folks that worked on this know that there's a certain expectancy when it comes to fight scenes and Dragon Ball stuff in general. And these movies, these last several movies they've done since Battle of Gods and onward, they have not failed to impress in that regard at all. They have been incredible. The impacts and a lot of the effects and things, and just the actual martial arts choreography, because there's a decent amount of that. It's not full on just, only energy blasts all the time. Really masterfully done. And of course, the sweeping kind of camera angles and stuff like that. In certain senses, there were, that impressed me in similar ways to the Mewtwo Strikes Back remake. Was very happy with that. Okay. I guess this is the first that I'll get to in terms of just straight up, I'm spoiling something that's major, although sadly, it was spoiled for me way in advance because this is what I get for being on Twitter. The Cell Max, like everybody versus Cell Max fight in particular, of course, is the big highlight, as it, should be, in terms of the fight scenes and everything. But yeah, they really went like balls to the walls with the, crazy over the top, just sweeping around the camera and, going nuts on the effects and just everything. I was very, very impressed by that. So, visually, I guess, maybe I was hoping for like major steps up from what I'd come to expect from stuff like Fighters, which Fighters looks great. It is also a video game and not a movie. I felt that this in certain aspects was only like a few steps up from Fighters and not quite as much as maybe I was a little hoping for. And I know that's kind of a vague, sort of maybe unfair criticism, which is fair enough to call me out for. But I don't know. There was, I can't quite put my finger on it, but that was something that like I kept a very open mind on. I was still happy with it. I would not say no to another CG Dragon Ball movie. Not that I wouldn't love a 2D one, but I know that the 2D team, I believe, is very occupied with One Piece stuff, including that new movie right now. But yeah, so loved that. Funnily enough, I caught up with, Justin Cook, who's, in this movie, he's, only as Dende, the least vocally strenuous characters of all his Dragon Ball, list of characters that he voices in the dub. We were talking a little bit about it and I mentioned, I'm excited to hear it's like kind of a Gohan centric movie. And he was like, actually, it's more of a Piccolo movie. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm totally cool with that because Piccolo is certainly one of my favorite characters. Absolutely. So going into that, I was pretty interested. Gohan and Piccolo are definitely up there as my, if not my two absolute favorites, certainly among my favorites for sure. There were certain things that I did really enjoy about Piccolo's sort of role in terms of like, I'm really the most he went from being the Demon King, one of arguably the first really, really major threatening villain, cause coming off the heels of, funnily enough, the Red Ribbon Army, which, were threatening, but not nearly to the extent that King Piccolo was. We have Piccolo here, and he ends up, being not just like, Unky Piccolo that, babysits the kids on the weekend. He's the most responsible, arguably, one in terms of protecting the planet. I did kind of in tandem with that too, thematically. I liked the fact that Goku and Vegeta, and actually not even just them, but several of the most powerful characters in the current scope of the Dragon Ball universe with all the super material and everything, I liked inherently that they weren't there, that they weren't around for it. It made sense, perfectly made sense in terms of how they've set things up with the two of them training and all the stuff with Beerus and Whis. Now Broly's been brought into the mix. The fact that there wasn't like the get out of jail free, call Goku and Vegeta to fix everything card. The fact that that was put away for a sensible reason, I loved that. So even just on a conceptual level, like that made me really happy because it's sensibly, it's hard to do scale. It's really hard to do scale correctly, when it comes to new, or not correctly, but it's hard to top, stuff like that in Dragon Ball now because of all the places that it's gone to, whether Akira Toriyama has been involved with coming up with new story material or otherwise. The fact that this was technically a smaller scale story compared to even just some of the past, I'm not even just counting the Super TV series, but even just the last couple movies to certain extents. But because it was so much, it felt so much more character driven, and just the kind of character interaction moments like were just so at the forefront. I loved that. I will say, probably the biggest of all compliment that I can give this film. This is without a doubt the funniest Dragon Ball movie, bar none. I would say, looking back on even the most comedic moments of Battle of Gods or Resurrection F or Broly, I would say this had, like, by and large the biggest laughs that it got, at least out of the audience that I went with. Everything from just like the visual comedy to, the little in-jokes, just the, stupidity and hubris of the characters, everything from, Bulma misusing the Dragon Balls for personal gain for very selfish, petty kind of reasons, to, a lot of Piccolo's just general awkwardness with the way that he is, and of just like, I don't care about these plushies. This is not my payment for looking after the kids on the weekend, and I don't know how to come up with good names for my new transformation that I guess I was just sort of inherently given from. I wasn't expecting this. Orange Piccolo, yeah, whatever, all that kind of stuff. Beerus being a simp for Chilai, which I have mixed feelings about conceptually, but it certainly was funny. It got a pretty massive roar out of the audience. The entirety of Carmine's character, which Magenta certainly had some, Magenta and Dr. Hedo and the two Gamma androids. They all had some funny gags and everything kind of scattered throughout, and I enjoyed generally all of them as characters. Carmine was like on another level of comedy because it was a different kind of comedy that I feel like I had really ever seen Dragon Ball do very often, where this like kind of subtle, dry, like weird sort of thing, like, and visually he's got great gags with like the bubble for his hair, turning up the music in the car to make the moment more dramatic, him leaning down to be at Magenta's level all the time, him having a YouTube channel and like making little like not PowerPoint presentations, but like little movies and things, just like so fun. And huge congrats, obviously, to the newcomers, Alex, Zeno, Zach, the amazing Charles Martinet, of course. But, Jason Marnoka, my MVP, like, good Lord, so funny. I'm a huge fan of his work. He's a lovely guy. So shout out to you, Jason. And of course, and everybody who was on this. Schemmel in particular, I remember talked a lot, about how, like, he thinks this is the best dub they've ever done. It is incredibly solid work. I've not seen it in Japanese. I actually would like to, because I do love the Japanese cast of Dragon Ball as well. I've not seen Broly in Japanese either, which maybe I'll do a little double feature of that someday, because I would like to hear the original performances as well. But yeah, really solid stuff. Everybody was super, super on point. And in fact, actually, a particular note too, Damian Clark and of course Norio Wakamoto in Japanese, just doing these like psychotic, guttural, terrifying, like Jurassic Park ass like roars and screams and grunts and things for Cell Max was horrifying and really effective, because while I had that concept, I mean, I predicted that was going to be the case. As soon as I saw in the trailers the big bulbous kind of container thing, I'm just like, the Red Ribbon Army is the main focus. There are new androids. The doctor kid is panicking. There's going to be a new Cell. There's going to be like Cell 2, 100%. And I was right. I was not expecting it to be a kaiju. I was not expecting it to be like a super cool version of the second form Cell, which, by the way, is actually my favorite form of Cell. I'm in a very small camp of that, but that I did not expect. If anything, actually, even though I knew that was the twist, I actually would have really preferred if they did just straight up keep it a secret. They just by name refer to it as Cell Max pretty much from the beginning. And that was kind of a disappointment. I would have liked to have that be a big buildup. And then just in the kind of climactic, dramatic battle, quote unquote, between Dr. Hedo and Magenta, then just he comes out of the thing and it's like, oh my God, it's a new Cell. And then, 18's offhanded line of, oh my God, they made a new Cell. Whoa, holy crap. That would have been plenty. So I kind of wish that they had built it up a little bit more, maybe attempted to make it a bit more of a surprise. But it was still the ultimate thing with revealing him and having that big fight at the end was still awesome. What was a much bigger criticism actually that I had when it came to the new characters, and I feel really bad having this criticism because I wish I felt differently. But this comes from, and I fully secede, this comes from, I think some of the thought processes that I've been having about developing my own, stuff in general, not just the movie that I'm writing right now, but also just having created, different things and thinking about balancing characters and everything. I kind of wish that Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 were just a single character. I think that I would have felt differently about that had, this been an arc in like a new season of the Super show or something, because then I'm certainly not against the idea of having them be like a duo and having like the straight one and then the crazy one. Because that's a classic kind of setup and everything. Absolutely. And they both were very cool and, very simple, kind of straightforward characters and everything. But also the fact that like Gamma 2 is really the one that's kind of like at the forefront in terms of development. And I'm going to get to character development in a little bit here too, because I want to come back to that about Gohan as well. I feel like there wasn't enough screen time between balancing so many different characters and everything. I feel like just a single new android could have been the one character, and that would have been it. Personally, I think that if there was more time, like in the span of like a season's worth of the show or whatever, like, and there would have been more time to see them with that dynamic, I would feel differently. But for the purpose of this movie and just this narrative they were trying to tell, I feel like I would have enjoyed them more if they were just a single character. I felt that way about a lot of things, and I've analyzed that within my own characters, where as much as it's really fun to have like 700 characters in something and build a giant world, I find that I get more value out of the story when there's lesser characters that serve the same kind of purpose. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It wasn't like hurtful to the movie or anything, because like Gamma 1 wasn't like, offensively hurting the story or anything like that. But I feel like it could have been a little bit more effective if the focus was just on this one new, enemy. Because the idea of them, and I guess kind of in tandem with, because Dr. Hedo served a purpose much more so, and he had enough screen time to just, be who he was, and we get a full kind of view of what his character is like, and he was a great addition. I did, by the way, love the hilarious kind of, I just sort of excuse it for this, but the Star Warsian type of everyone happens to be related to everybody. Of course, Magenta is the son of Commander Red from the original Red Ribbon Army. Of course, Dr. Hedo is the grandson of Dr. Gero. Like, of fucking course, because that's always how it is. In every one of these things, somehow someone's related to somebody, and like their descendant is the one that carries on the work. That was not surprising to me. I'm just sort of like, yeah, okay, fine. Having not even seen Star Wars Episode 9 yet, and I still know, the twists about that. But nonetheless, I think the idea of having like, because I love having good guys that are planted into the bad guy's side and they don't realize it. I love that trope. I really genuinely do. So I don't know. I was kind of, I feel like that could have been a little bit stronger. And I do wonder about, I'm sure that they'll rebuild Gamma 2 and they'll have the two of them, around as other characters to, just have in the world and stuff. And of course, Hedo will be there too. Interesting, as this is kind of a side note, but watching through some of the material of Kakarot, the recent video game, where they established, we now know her name is Vomi, because as we've now cracked the mystery years later of what was Dr. Gero's name pun supposed to be. It turns out that Gero and Gevo and Hedo are all different types of words for vomiting and barf and hurling in Japanese, I guess, in some way. And of course, vomi is the English word vomit. So, ha ha ha. She was in the DLC stuff working at Capsule Corp. So I don't know how much they were kind of considering some of that new material to be like, thought of. But the fact that they reference things like Android 16 was modeled after one of Dr. Gero's children, which, by the way, apparently there's another one that we don't know about. We haven't seen, the middle generation of Dr. Hedo's parents. We don't know who they are. Maybe we'll learn about who they are at some point in the future. Who knows? But and then also establishing, yes, Android 21 was based off of Bomi, but there's no mention of 21 because that's kind of its own separate thing that has to do with video games and multiple continuities of that and yada yada. But that was pretty fascinating that they tied that in. I do wonder about what other kind of directions they'll go with that in the future. Because, this is certainly not the end of everything, of course. But yeah, so overall, I did enjoy the new characters. I think that for the most part, they all served their purposes that they were built for very well. I think that most of the other characters situationally were fine. Chilai and Lemo just kind of, hanging around by extension from Broly and having fun interactions with Beerus and Whis were fine. Just having that kind of, even though like the side plot of like, what are the other way more powerful characters up to right now? Like, it didn't really add anything to the plot. I guess a criticism of that sort of subsection is it would have been nice if maybe there was some kind of tie-in, like maybe like they were talking about stuff to do with, when we're not around, and if Earth is ever threatened by something like, I have confidence in guys like Gohan and Piccolo and all the others that can defend when we happen to not be there. And remember, that's why I, sacrificed myself in the first place and, this and that during Boo. But the fact that they were instead focusing on like the training stuff and like trying to figure out like the things about Ultra Instinct or whatever, and like them referencing Jiren, like I can appreciate that that's like, hey, this is what's happening after the end of the Super anime. Like, that's cool and everything, but I don't know. I think in terms of like tying everything together a little bit more, I think it would have been nice to have it be more relevant to what the bigger plot was. So yeah. Dende and Korin and Yajirobe with his munching noises, we're fine. Again, very situational kind of things, but I'm glad that they're still, there for the purposes that they have, and they, get their little bits of screen time. I did like, of course, 18 and Krillin being in this case, much more of, I felt an appropriate cavalry. I felt like, honestly, there was something about that compared to, I don't know, maybe I'd feel differently if I went back and rewatched it again. Maybe just because like I don't look as fondly back on Resurrection F, but there was something about the usage of Krillin and 18 and Goten and Trunks as like the cavalry for this part that was like more fun to me. And probably the big reason was because of the comedy that they played up with Krillin just being a goober, and then finally getting adult Gotenks. And even the fact that, they worked having fat Gotenks be effective and not just as a gag. I'm like, damn, all right, cool, I'm down with that. So it's, and that played into like the ridiculousness. Like it didn't feel forced or whatever. It was consistent because of the comedic beats that had been throughout the whole film. So I liked that. I felt that was a good usage of everybody that was kind of added in there. So I will say that I think more than anything, my biggest disappointment, and I guess I really should be used to this because I've had to kind of come to terms with the fact that shonen does not usually tend to get all that deep in development, or at least not the ones that I, latch myself onto, as much as they are, inspirational pieces to me, and Dragon Ball especially. There are always kind of emotional beats and kind of deeper points that don't quite go as far as I wish that they would. And really, I should just be kind of used to that by this point, because at the end of the day, it is still, even a movie like this that expects you to know quite a bit. It really does. I've heard this is like almost one intended for like more than anything. It's intended for the older crowd and not as like a gateway Dragon Ball movie because of, how much it references older stuff from the earlier episodes and series and different things like that. Cause you really have to know stuff from original Dragon Ball, from Z, from Super, all this, even just to a certain extent, some of the video games and things. It's still pretty approachable, but like, it's much more of an in-joke thing. But this one, yeah, like Dragon Ball in general is still at its core, it's a kid's series. And unfortunately, I feel like there's always just that little bit of limitation that stuff intended for younger audiences gets, whether that's fair or not, or if it's intentional or not, I don't know. But what I'm getting at, particularly is that I wish they had a little bit more emphasis on the point that Piccolo was kind of trying to make to Gohan ultimately. And especially because the fact of the matter is we kind of treaded that ground already throughout the course of all this new stuff. You know, it kind of started in Resurrection F where he's like, oh, I think I can maybe go Super Saiyan again. I don't remember how to do my ultimate, like, you know, potential unlocked form or whatever. You know, and then up through that early part of the multiverse tournament thing where, like, you know, Gohan is trying to, you know, awaken his old strength and everything. And, you know, being reminded that, look, man, like, we acknowledge that you don't want to be a fighter. But the fact is, like, there's going to be times where you're going to have to rise to the occasion. You have to still keep up with your training because you never know if the Earth is going to be under threat from something crazy. And so they kind of already did some of that story to begin with. And again, conceptually, I love the idea of doing a story like that, where that's the point, where it's Piccolo being the responsible one and trying to teach people a lesson. Because the fact that, like, the Red Ribbon Army at its, like, kind of, at its kind of like first glance is, oh, well, they're back and they have these new androids, but, like, this isn't, like, something that we can't handle compared to other stuff that's come up recently. You know, we just had to save the entire multiverse from crumbling. You know, we had to fight, you know, multiple gods and things like this. Compared to that, like, we can handle this, but we need to be able to handle this because of the fact that the super strong, you know, press the Goku button and everybody, you know, the world is saved. That's not always going to be super accessible. The fact that Pan kind of gets in on it by like, oh yeah, I'll play the, you know, sort of kind of damsel in distress, even though I'm actually self-aware of this and I'm just, like, you know, playing pretend and whatever. Like, that's great. That's super adorable. And then Gohan, cause normally in a narrative like that, where it's like, oh, and then, you know, this character kind of just is a setup for the other guy to come in and take the win. Like, usually that sucks, but it makes sense for Gohan because of his relationship with Piccolo. The fact that he was his first martial arts teacher. And it's a reminder of, like, don't forget your roots. Don't forget, you know, why we had to do this in the first place. That's the stuff that I wish that they emphasized a little bit more, because I liked Gohan's scenes. I liked what they did with him. I like how they executed him. Like, he had great, cool moments. I was fine with him getting this, like, beast form, whatever the hell, like Super Saiyan Beast or whatever the fuck it's called. Like, that's fine. Like, what they did was fine. It wasn't pushed or emphasized enough as I would have liked. I wish that they developed that entire, like, overall point more, because it was there. It was there, and I'm glad that it was there, but it was a little too bogged down, I think, by stuff that didn't need to be there, you know, or that, like, stuff that was, like, fine to be there. But considering these usually aren't super long, I think that this movie was probably about an hour and a half, if I'm remembering correctly. There was, I don't know, there was just, like, there was more time that I think could have been spent on that aspect of it that would have made me, like, then this could have maybe even been my favorite Dragon Ball movie ever. But I don't know. I don't know necessarily how I would stack it up with the others. My offhanded opinion is I was saying I would kind of put it neck and neck with Broly, but I don't know, actually. But it doesn't take away from the fact that I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I really hope that they continue to do Dragon Ball movies like this. I know that eventually we'll probably get, you know, more Dragon Ball Super episodes or, like, a new series or something. I don't doubt that. I don't know if they're going to do the Moro stuff or Granola or whatever. I don't really care that much about that stuff, unfortunately. I've been following the manga and everything, but I don't know, it's not been terribly interesting to me, unfortunately. But honestly, I have been so much more enthused by what they've been doing with these films than anything. You know, because doing episodes and, like, you know, often the drop in quality, but then sometimes you'll get more time to spend with certain new characters if they're hopefully interesting enough and everything. There's a little bit of a push and pull, give and take on that. But I don't know, the movies I think are the way to go. I really, really want more of that, because even again, with all my criticisms of this movie was awesome. I brought, Wes Cadgett came with me, and he, you know, he's, believe it or not, despite being, you know, quote, Mr. Over 9,000 guy, haha, we always rib him for, but, like, he's not, like, a huge hardcore Dragon Ball fan. He's much more of a biz casual one. But he really, really liked this. Like, he was excited and was like, actually, could I come with you, with your friend group and everything? I'm like, yeah, of course, you're welcome to. You know, me thinking maybe he wasn't all that interested, but he was way, way into it. And again, my whole theater, we were, you know, screaming and yelling and cheering and everything. It was awesome. You know, and I think it's worth being proud of to the staff and the cast and everybody. It was great. But yeah, there's certain things like that I'm always like, man, Dragon Ball, you're always so close for being like as incredible and breathtaking and mind blowing as I sometimes like kind of fantasize about you being, but I still, it comes back to the same thing that I say about a lot of classic series like this. I love these characters and this world so much. I really, really do. And anytime that they do something new and fun and interesting, and also while still keeping the spirit of that, you know, that classic kind of Dragon Ball sense, like those core themes of, you know, the hubris of villains and, you know, pushing yourself to your limits and passing on your, you know, your teachings to the next generation, which all of these movies, and this one especially, they've done that very well. And I think that the inclusion of having Akira Toriyama directly involved with the story making process and everything, I think that that's adding a level of value that had been missing for a long time. And I, you know, it's not always perfect, even when he is involved. You know, there can sometimes be those George Lucas-y kind of moments of, you know, not every decision by the original creator is the greatest in terms of, you know, how the final thing goes. Jiren is an example that comes to mind, unfortunately. But I think that capturing the spirit of his brilliance and his original work is an incredibly important factor for modern day Dragon Ball stuff, and it is here in full with this film. So I guess, I mean, I've spoiled it a lot already, but I hope that you guys will or have already gone to go see it in theaters while it's there. I don't know how wide of the release it is, in terms of, across the country, like how many theaters it's in or anything. But if you can, please do, because it's worth it. And even seeing it at IMAX, a movie like this where it's such a massive visual spectacle and everything, and the, you know, just the action and like this is the type of movie that is definitely worth seeing in something like that for sure. So that's it. Yeah, I look forward to whatever will be coming next, certainly for Dragon Ball animation. There's been no official word yet. You know, again, the word on the street is that we'll probably get a new series at some point, and you know, I'm sure I'll still tune into that and enjoy it for what it is. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, thanks for listening. I'll have in here, if you're interested in some of my reviews of some of the other past DBZ movies and otherwise, I'll have some links to a couple of my other recent Kirblogs. I have not been doing nearly as many Kirblogs this year as I've been wanting to, but I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know your thoughts about the movie if you've hopefully gone to see it. Let me know in the comments below. Did you enjoy any of the new characters, the new transformations, funniest gags to you, best moments? Let me know. And you know what? I'll say this because it's been a while. If you have suggestions for future Kirblog topics of any kind, leave a comment about that or shoot me a message on Twitter or otherwise, and mayhaps I'll do one. I have plans for other things to do on my YouTube channel for the rest of the year that I'll be talking about very soon. I've got a whole bunch of things that I want to get through, but I'd like to throw a Kirblog in there, you know, once in a while when I get the chance. So thanks so much, everybody, and I'll catch you on the next one. Stay tuned.